Sup, you chuckle fucks, it's your boy, Dark Raccoon here with the What If Issei found out the truth and became a stray. Part 2 of this What If. So yeah, it's part 2. Sup, I'm back with this part. But yeah, other than that, let me begin into this What If. Let me shut the fuck up, and yeah. They cut the grass a while ago, so not the point. I might be sneezing throughout this video, maybe not. Hope not. I mean, I just fucking ran through the fucking cutting the grass and hope not much dirt went into my nose, but yeah. Luckily I was wearing a mask. But not the point. Let me begin to What If before I ramble on any further. And yeah. So let's begin into this What If. So we begin into mostly, well, after the fact that mostly Issei disappeared on the same day that mostly somewhat fire was caused. Not many people understand and what really happened. It looked like an explosion and fire appeared on the trees because there was ash on there. But of course, not many people understand what happened. Now, Sona can barely even understand what exactly happened. She can consider it to be supernatural. But what the one thing is for sure is Issei has disappeared on the same day that mostly, or probably on a different day. She can't really tell, but she can only tell that Issei disappeared on some kind of day that he didn't really show up for school for a while. But yeah, Rias didn't even bother to go check on him, but Sona wanted to go check on him because, well, when she went to go check out the explosion, somewhat fire site, she felt very familiar energy. It was kind of familiar to Issei, but at the same time it wasn't. It felt more draconic, like it was more of a draconic site, like draconic energy. And Issei does have a draconic sacred gear. It's the red dragon. It's like the, what's it called? The dragon of domination. But this didn't feel like the dragon of domination. It felt something different. It felt more like a dragon full of hatred and despair. But she couldn't really tell what it was entirely. There's no dragon that has a aura of hatred and despair. I mean, there's the evil dragons, but she has never met an evil dragon. So she cannot compare what this feeling is towards an evil dragon. So of course, she can only kind of describe this to be kind of like Sanji's kind of power. Not entirely, because Sanji has Viltra, and Viltra is supposedly the dragon king, and the aura being, what the hell was the aura again for Viltra? So Viltra is a dragon of somewhat darkness and mostly curses. So of course it was feeling similar to that, because if she can remember right, Viltra is the only other evil dragon to become a dragon king, and somehow was stable enough, but not the point. But of course, well, she was confused with that. This is where, well, she knows Sanji hasn't awoken anything else because he would have a different aura the time they went back to school. But of course, well, she is more confused, and why Rias doesn't seem to care about the whole explosion and other shit. It's like if she's too, well, she's either too excited and being happy that she's free, but at the same time, Sona, she kind of had a small little crush developed from the fact that Issei did save Rias from Rias, and he did it in a way to kind of be admired by, because he sacrificed an arm for Rias. But of course, she was kind of sad in the fact that Issei hasn't really shown up for a week, and then the couple of months later. But yeah, she kind of found out that Issei has been missing, and Sona has tried to investigate by talking to Rias, and Rias has been kind of, well, mostly, how should I say, what was it called? Quite, not arrogant, but mostly, what was that other word? To be ignorant. Yeah, she's been really ignorant about the whole disappearance of Issei. Even Akano, Kiba, Kaneko, and even what's it called, Alia has noticed this, mostly since their king and queen has been acting weird. Of course, Kiba was a little confused in where Issei's at. He hasn't really been here for a while. Alia is actually kind of sad, and Issei hasn't been showing up to the house or anything. And Kaneko, well, she doesn't really care about the pervert, but at the same time, she doesn't know much about what happened to the pervert. Now, of course, when Sona questioned them, basically, they just say they haven't really seen him in a month, and neither has he went to the house from Asia's POV, but yeah. So, mostly, since that's been happening, really, pretty much, Sona can only think and kind of theory that Issei went astray, but the problem is if he would have went astray, pretty much well, mostly the Devil Society would actually found out, because there's a system between mostly Rias' peerage that mostly Cersei usually keeps a kind of close eye. But there's one problem. If that's the case, then they should have been alerted that the Red Dragon Emperor has went astray. But there hasn't been any news of that. But the only theory that this can actually be backed up is the fact that Sona has actually one of the pieces. One of the evil pieces that mostly is a pawn piece. That is definitely for Issei, but the difference is that this piece is no longer a working piece. What I mean, it's no longer a working piece. She only has one of them. The other 7, she really hasn't found it in the crater or wherever it was the explosion site. This is where this piece is melted, cracks all over, and of course it's white. Not even white. It's like a dullish gray. It doesn't have any devil signature from it, like any devil energy, magic, or any of that. It doesn't even have any kind of like life in it. It feels like every time she touches it, it feels nothing but like despair, sorrow, and anger. Now, of course, well, she doesn't understand too much. Those evil pieces shouldn't be like that. A dullish gray color, that's not impossible. Because the original pieces that usually are made before kind of adding demonic energy are purely white. But when you add demonic energy, they become either, well, mostly red, or some kind of color for mostly the symbol of your family, mostly the color of the magic that you use. Because Sona's was actually kind of a bluish color, and Rias is red because of her destruction magic, but yeah. Sona was because of her water magic, but yeah, water and ice magic. But of course, well, Sona is just confused. There's no such thing as this being so dullish, gray, and cracked, and even burnt. There's actually not even a way to actually burn pieces like these. And there's no way to actually break them unless you're actually like a super strong being, like a god at least, just crushing in your hand. Well, Sona has actually never heard of these pieces being cracked like this. She would have sent them to Ajuka, but the only reason why she hasn't is because, well, the barrier that she has put on the, what's it called? Well, mostly box, because it's literally holed into a piece, into a box, is because, well, every time she touches the box, it feels like it's melting. So, of course, she just puts it in a place in her kind of like house that mostly no one should be able to find it. Not even Tsubaki or anyone. She's actually the only one been investigating mostly Issei's disappearance and other things. She hasn't even told her peerage, she hasn't told her sister, she hasn't told Cersei, and no one. She's a little confused, saddened about mostly Issei's disappearance. But of course, well, she's just kind of been too distraught. Of course, that also has been for mostly Kiba. Well, not Kiba. Mostly Kiba has actually only been a good comrade for Issei only a couple times. So, of course, he's not too distraught, but of course, he is distraught a little bit. Koneko, she really doesn't care, and Asia is really distraught. She's saddened. She actually became quite depressed and quite angry. At the same time, she lost her charm of being like a kind, gentle person to being actually training ruthless half the time. She doesn't want to lose another friend. Of course, Kiba and mostly Koneko are her only friends. Rias, well, that's completely her master, and even Akuna, but after finding out what exactly might have happened towards Issei, there was only a theory that mostly Sona could come up with, is that Sona kind of said that maybe Rias said something dumb in a private conversation, and Issei might have overheard it. Issei might have also went in a berserk state, and he might have die. This is where Ozzy was so angry and pissed that she grabbed mostly Sona from mostly the collar, and her eyes, instead of being a greenish color, a very gentle greenish color, she was in a very rage greenish color. This is where, well, Ozzy was no longer the nice, kind person no more. She became different. She became more ruthless, more angry, and of course, every time that mostly, well, Kiba and her decide to train, because mostly Asa has asked Kiba and Koneko for training. Koneko can actually barely dodge half her punches because her punches have become much more stronger, furious, and of course very ruthless and not giving Konoko a chance. Konoko has managed to dodge some of the punches, but of course some of them managed to kind of almost break her kind of like rook strength in defense. This is where, well, she is just a little bit scared of Asuya. Mostly she realized that Asuya has changed. She's still gentle somewhat, but it isn't fully there. She's gentle towards the Hyoto family, yes. And the Hyoto family has become quite overprotective of Asuya because her other child has disappeared. But of course, they kind of realize that Asuya is actually protecting them because she's actually more ruthless. Like there one time in like a couple of days, mostly they actually went out as a happy family, and a kind of like mostly robber tries to rob them, and of course it's like talking smack about mostly doing something towards mostly Mika and also Asuya, and Asuya did not take that lightly. She grabbed this man from the arm, slammed him down to the ground, and this man basically probably had some broken bones inside him. Yeah, that man was gone. That man was fucking taken out too easily. That man was ashamed of his life of being a guy. This man was just gone. There was no way of coming back from that. He was just slammed to the ground like nothing. This is where, well, mostly that was that thing. And this is where, well, mostly both of, what's it called, the Hyoto family, well, mostly, both Hyotos kind of realized that mostly Asuya is the one protecting them. But yeah, also Asuya, when she goes to school, she's a lot more ruthless and hatred towards anyone else. Like, mostly, she doesn't hate, what's it called, mostly Aika. But of course, mostly if Aika's being like told off from a guy, or some guy is like trying to flirt a little bit with Asuya does not take that lightly. She grabbed a guy and slammed him to the desk. She went, bah! This man was knocked the fuck out and was kind of probably in a coma. The other guys realized that Asuya is not the type to actually be messed with, because Issei has been kind of gone for a while, and they realized how Asuya's personality went from being really, really kind, being really cute, to being really ruthless and being really scary. The girls in mostly everyone's school, most of the kennel girls have tried to ask mostly Asuya to join the club because they actually wanna protect her. No, there's not protecting her. She's protecting mostly Aika, because Aika's the only other friend that she has. But yeah. Also, yes, Asuya has trained in sword combat with Kiba. And not gonna lie, Kiba is actually having a struggling time to keep up with Asuya in just a normal kendo sword. Literally, Asuya's sword techniques has actually become much better. Now, one thing's for sure, but of course, mostly with Kiba and Asuya has actually become a professional swordsman in only a couple of like mostly 1 month, because of how hard she trains, how ruthless she trains herself, and how much she actually increased. Instead of just being limited by mostly speed, strength, and defense for being a bishop, no, she really kind of broke those limits and really shattered the whole bishop thing. She can heal herself, she can heal people from far away, because she has tried this before. She basically literally kicked mostly Kiba or even Konoko and literally tried them out as test dummies really hard, and of course decided to heal them pretty far. Now of course both of them are quite scared of why Asuya does this. She literally trains harder than anyone. She's actually considered to be the second strongest. If Issei was still here, he would consider to still be the first strongest out of mostly Rias peerage, because well, if you don't count Akano or mostly what's it called now? Mostly if you don't count Konoko or not Konoko, Akano or mostly Rias, then yes, mostly if you're consider mostly the bishops, knights, well mostly not Konoko, the rooks, and even the pawn pieces, mostly Asuya would be second strongest, because Issei still can just promote from mostly pawn, knight, rook, what's it called, bishop, or even queen. But yeah, but not the point. So that's the thing. This is where, well, she also gained mostly another pair of wings. Thanks to her magic capacity, she actually managed to increase her own power and actually managed to kind of gain another pair of wings. So she has actually 4 wings in total. 4 demonic wings. But this is where, well, she has not given up in the blessing of the Lord. Even though it gives her a fucking headache, she still believes in the Lord to actually bring back Issei. So that's the thing. So, of course, so mostly in this one, I'm going to give mostly a nausea development boost. And yes, but not the point. So, of course, with that happening, mostly Kiba has also tried to train hard and trying to keep up with mostly Asia's like training, but her potential is a lot much better than mostly Kiba because she actually has a desire to see Issei once more again in her life. Even if he's dead, she still wants to see him once more or something. She just desires him to be back in her life. He was the only person, the only kind person who believed, even cried for her, even when she died and other things. She wants to be there for him. But yeah. Now, of course, this is where Sona actually also seen the process prove the, like, mostly, what's it called, Asia's process to improve and becoming stronger. Literally, mostly Asia decides to have a sparring match by herself against mostly Sona and her peerage. And Sona and Tsubaki had a hard time with Asia because Asia already took out like the other pawn pieces, like Sanji. Like she took out Sanji so fucking fast by just punching him so hard in the face. Even if he uses the Viltra like line, he couldn't actually like do anything. Like that thing was kind of useless because he has to figure out the fact that it can absorb energy. So of course Asia just fucking grabbed the line, pull him in, and fucking punch him so hard in the face, knocking his ass literally out. He was clocked the fuck out. He was basically sleep tight. Basically, she gave him the fucking she just skipped the whole left, right, good night, and sleep tight. She basically just said good night and sleep fucking tight. Fucking man was knocked out. Everyone in Sona's peerage is like, damn! Because mostly Sanji, supposedly the guy, has 4 pawn pieces and has a dragon sacred gear, and he got knocked out by a bishop. Which was shocking. Like, he did promote to mostly Queen and Ensign, but no, he was still knocked out. His defenses were just out the window. Like, that defense that he had for being a queen just went out the fucking window entirely. This is where everyone else kind of got ready. Mostly, Momo tries to use magic against Asia, which Asia just makes like what's it called? A defense kind of barrier to actually block some magic spells from mostly Momo, and actually decides to use a spell kind of teleportation to teleport right next to Momo and right now punch her in the gut, knocking her out. This is where, well, when it came to Tsubasa, who was actually trying to punch mostly Asia right now mostly she dodged to the left by kind of moving her head to the left or mostly right, and of course this is where she uppercutted mostly Tsubasa in the chin, knocking her out. This is where, well, when it came to Toma, the red-haired girl who pulled out the sword, mostly she was already lost because Asia pulled out 2 swords because she's always someone who actually uses 2 swords, 1 sword style, or some knives and some other things. She does train like other weaponry, but this is where, well, she pulls out her 2 katanas that she usually uses, and she does train with katanas because she can either train with a broadsword and she will have to use only mostly 1 sword, or she trains with 2 katanas, and because they're light and kind of flexible, they are much more easier to actually use in dual wielding. But yeah, since her kind of small, kind of fragile body, but not really small body because she has actually kind of like a 6-pack because she does train, and this is where, well, her muscles, she is quite muscular and lean. She's mostly like muscular lean. She only built herself to be muscular lean, not like really bulky like some like athlete girls and like mostly those shows or whatever. But yeah, this is where, well, she kind of rushes at Toma. Toma right now tries to block one of the swords, where she managed to, but of course this is where, well, she actually felt mostly like the shocking wave from mostly when she blocked mostly Asia's sword. She felt like her hands right now tremble from the attack. This is where, well, she didn't realize from the other sword. She tried to block for the other sword, but the other sword managed to slash her right in her chest right now, kind of making her cough up a little bit of like blood because it didn't really hit any vital organs, but it was still shocking. This is where, well, she then turns around just to see mostly Asia hitting her in the head with the butt of the sword, just knocking her out. But yeah, there's the last member. The last member is a what is the last member? Flip. I forgot what flip. So mostly it's a brownish hair girl. I forgot these two's name, but mostly I'm gonna just guess that one is actually probably a rook and the other one is a bishop. So pretty much they easily got knocked out. I don't really remember their name, but yeah. But mostly the girl who's actually taller and brownish hair, she tried to use magic against mostly Asia. Asia right now dodges to the right, dodges to the left, and right now kind of rushes at her, basically using something called sprint magic, making her faster and actually punching the shit out of mostly this girl, knocking her out. The last one, who was actually a rook, realized that Asia is much more faster, basically has the strengths of almost a pawn, rook, knight, and even a bishop, even though she's only limited to be a bishop in the first place. This worked well. Asia noticed the rook, the last rook, and this worked well. She kind of makes a magic ball appears in her hand, and this worked well. She calls it magic ball dragon shot, similar to what's it called, Issei's kind of like red gauntlet dragon shot. And this worked well. She basically kind of tosses it up and then punches the shit out of it, sending a ball straight towards what's it called, mostly a greenish ball straight towards, well, the last rook. The rook right now gets hit by it, and right now she's knocked out for the count. This worked well. Both Sona and Sabaki widened their eyes after realizing that Asia took out mostly the entire peerage. Sona could not give any commands because she was so shocked with Asia's skill and improvement. She just became literally a one-man army against mostly Sona's peerage, which is shocking. Literally shocking. Very shocking. This worked well. Sona right now tells Sabaki to make sure that she uses her mirror to try to stop mostly Asia from using magic. This worked well. Asia uses a magic attack, mostly like a magic laser beam from her hand. This is where, well, she only calls it laser. This is where she shoots a laser straight towards mostly Sona, but a mirror right now blocks it and sends it back straight towards, well, Asia. Asia dodges, and right now realizes that this mirror is quite dangerous. This is where, well, we'll see, Asia says, "So, what is that mirror entirely, Sabaki-chan?" She said in a very funny voice, which makes Sabaki quite nervous. This is where, well, we'll see. Sabaki says, "I cannot let you get any closer." This is where, well, we'll see. Asia nodded and says, "I see. Well, can you at least dodge 10, or not dodge, block 10 mostly blastomite?" This is where, well, she starts sending blasts straight towards mostly Sabaki, and it was just fireballs. But these fireballs are green, straight towards right now Sabaki. Sabaki managed to make the mirror bigger, and this is where, well, she right now absorbs it and sends it back straight towards mostly Asia. Asia right now just slapped some of the fireballs because it wasn't actually too strong to actually hurt her. And this is where, well, right now making Asia chuckles and giggles a little bit. Right now creepily at mostly Sabaki, which made her quite nervous. But this is where, well, right now Asia snapped her fingers, and this is where literally so many portals of these greenish fireballs, or not portals, mostly of these greenish fireballs all around Asia appears. And it looked to be almost about a dozen. There was no way for Sabaki to actually block all that, or she's gonna get hit by all of it. This is where, well, even surrounding Sabaki. This is where, well, she realized that she's surrounded. She can try to use one mirror to block the other side, but this is where, well, she can't just make a mirror dome around her to try to block all this. This is where Asia says, "This is called flame barrier." Or mostly not flame barrier, flame dome. It's a dome that allows me to create flames all around us so we can actually fight. So how about it, Sabaki? Do you want to give up now? Sabaki says, "I cannot give up for the president." "Oh, don't worry about the president. Besides, I wasn't even here." This is where, well, Asia was literally a fucking clone. This is where, well, the clone literally snapped her fingers, and right now, the actual clone herself that was fighting against Sabaki disappeared, while the flame boss rushes towards Sabaki. Sabaki widened her eyes after realizing that literally Asia was just a clone. This is where, well, Sona was actually gathering kind of a water magic ball. Of course, she was actually hoping that mostly Sabaki can hold mostly, well, Asia back. But this is where Asia right now put her arm literally around Sona and says, "Hey there, Sona-chan." She said in a very creepy voice, and of course a whisper to Sona, which made Sona startled. This is where, well, she widened her eyes after turning one next and seeing Asia. This is where mostly Asia's blondish hair has become mostly still long, kind of goldenish. Her greenish eyes, well, her features, instead of kind of looking cute, she looked quite interesting and good looking. But this is where, well, she also does have a somewhat small scar that mostly she could heal any time, like really perfectly, but she keeps the scar just kind of be reminded that mostly she's training for mostly Issei to come back. And of course, I should mention that Asuya has gotten taller. Asuya and original canon should have been like mostly. So she's like 5'1", which in this one she's actually almost the same height as Sona, but a little bit bigger. So she's actually like almost like 5'6". But yeah. So of course she grew a bit. This worked well. Mostly Sona is just shocked to see right now Asuya right next to him. Asuya says, "So, do you give up now?" This is where Sona just won her eyes. This is where she dispels the water magic, but this is where, well, before she could actually even send it straight down for her and even mostly Asuya says lightning strike. Literally, lightning strikes from the heavens themselves and smashes into Sona's water, destroying it, dispelling it. Of course, it did hit mostly, like the water was charged with lightning, so of course it hit both Asuya and even, well, mostly Sona, which mostly like her fight them. And this is where Asuya falls down to the ground because she was just literally shocked. Literally, but not the point. Wait, let me do something. So she kind of looks like this, somewhat. Mostly that's how Asuya looks like if she had a scar and other things, but yeah. So it's more like this because she found out one thing about herself. So this is how Asuya looks like, but yeah. So the one thing that she found out about herself, mostly Asuya, she found out that she's not fully a human. She is human, but she's also elf. She's actually related to the elf tribe, but yeah. But of course, she's actually quite blessed with magic. That's why she's able to kind of pull out some crazy kind of magic spells. This is where, well, mostly we go back into both Sona and mostly Asuya kind of a little bit fry. Asuya managed to heal herself. She knew that she was going to really regret that, but of course, there was no other way. Then you either make a barrier and right now let the water kind of be around her, and Sona might have pull out some kind of other crazy shit, or just fry her and also fry mostly Sona. Sona was also fried, but this worked well. She was just shocked that Asuya would do something that crazy. Then again, Issei does something crazy like that also. So of course, mostly she realized the tactical kind of attack that mostly Asuya is doing. It's a good strategy to take out some of them, but it's also kind of like a little bit wild, kind of similar to Issei's kind of fighting style. But mostly if Issei was quite improved in fighting style, which no one really knows and where he's at, so pretty much Sona cannot really say that Issei probably went bad or whatever. But this is where, well, Asuya says, "So, how was that?" This is where she pulled her elf ears, her kind of longish blonde hair. This is where, well, her kind of greenish eyes were kind of looking at mostly Sona, and Sona says, "Wait, you're an elf?" "I'm an elf descendant, but yeah." "Oh, no wonder you're so blessed with magic." "Yep, I mean, I'm so good with it, but that doesn't matter." "So, how was the battle?" This is where, well, Sona says, "Since you take out almost all my pawn pieces, or mostly my pawn piece, and then my bishop, rooks, knights, I'm gonna say you're pretty good at it. You also took out my queen, where I healed her. I healed all of them. They should be waking up later." So I can say, "Ow, ow, ow." She right now sits down on mostly next to Sona, and this is where, well, Sona says, "Sobaki, are you okay?" "No, I'm not okay." Basically, what's it called? Asuya here decided to mostly, how should I say, fool me by making a clone and making a huge barrier of fireballs all around us. And they would have destroyed both me and her if that thing wasn't just a clone. This is where Sona sweatshops, realizing that mostly that's how, well, Asuya was so close to mostly Sona, because her queen literally got fooled by a clone. This is where, well, she then kind of thinks about it and says, "Asuya-san." Asuya says, "Yeah." This is where, well, she kind of just looks relaxed and kind of okay with Sona. Sona says, "How was that a clone from the very beginning?" This is where, well, Asuya says, "Not entirely. When I punch the shit out of mostly your pawn being mostly Sanji, that was not a clone. That was actually me punching him really hard. I think I knocked him out a little bit too hard. But mostly when Momo decided to send mostly spell attacks straight to me, I made a barrier but also made a clone super fast, and then I teleport my real body away from the battlefield. Knowing that I enhanced this clone with so many kind of different spells before kind of disappearing. This is where, well, Sona says, so basically my other project got wiped out by a clone. Yep, your pawn didn't. I punched him. So yeah. This is where, well, mostly Sona nodded and says, then Tsubaki got wiped out and then I got wiped out by the real one. So you have a great, brilliant strategy. I thought you were just going wild. No, if the clone managed to get the spell, I would have probably done a long range spell that would have took out your entire peerage. Oh, I see. I was already kind of planning on it. That's why I say lightning strike, because lightning strike was actually a stronger long range spell that I was actually planning to take out your team. But I managed to lower down the magic to take out your team, but it was enough to take out that water bubble, and that's why it fried both of us. Sona said, oh, so I thought you managed to kind of activate that so fast. I was wondering why it was so fast to actually be activated. No, it was already planned out from the very beginning. I was going to knock out your peerage, but I didn't, because most of my clone was quite more skillful than your actual members, and none of them could actually scratch her. So if you managed to even hit her once, it probably would have dispelled, because it was actually quite weak in defense. Well, not weak in defense, but weak in kind of like health. If you managed to would have hit it once, it probably would have dispelled. But yeah, this is where mostly all of them just sees Issei. Issei says other than that, the lightning strike was just trying to make them be close to each other. But of course, everyone was kind of staying a little too far away from each other. I could have never hit them. That's why that lightning strike was just kind of hitting both of us at the same time. Well, hitting your water bubble, and then that thing is dispelling, but having full charge of lightning blast in the water, smashing into both of us. This is where, well, Sona winds her eyes and says, huh, God, I got outsmarted here. Well, Issei, you seem to be quite talented in it. So, how powerful are you in, well, mostly in just terms of raw strength between us? Issei says, well, Sona, how much wings do you have? This is where Sona says, I have 2. Even Rias has 2. Can't you increase it with your more mana, like mostly more magic you control, to increase it? Wouldn't it just grow up to be like more? Yes, that is a theory, and I have tried to train in it, but I don't really have the time necessary to actually try to train. This is where Issei pulled out literally 4 wings and says, I mean, I increased it to be 4 wings. This is where, well, Sona said, okay, you don't need to gotta flex on this. This is where, well, mostly Issei smiles and just giggles and says, I'm just kidding. But for real, I actually train on myself, magic and wise and heal wise, so that's why I managed to heal everyone. Pretty good. Except for Sanchi. I punched him too hard, so he's kind of knocked out for the count. Sona nodded and says, I see. Man, I can't believe basically Rias has a strong bishop. Well, not entirely. I'm actually thinking of leaving her peerage, because she hasn't really done anything to train us, and I've been just training by myself. I was actually just thinking of leaving her. I know I would have been counted as a stray, but I've been trying to think of going to go find Issei by myself. This is where, well, the other peerage members kind of say, Issei? I thought Issei was just training with something. This is where Issei says, you didn't tell them anything? Sona says, this is where, well, we'll see. Issei decided to explain what happened to Issei. He hasn't really been seen for a couple of months, and that whole training thing was just a lie. Because mostly she doesn't want to make Rias worry about losing her precious pawn, blah, 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 blah. Issei is quite sarcastic against Rias and the others. But yeah. Except for mostly Kiba and Koneko, but yeah. Except for Koneko. She's actually quite annoyed with Koneko kind of holding back in a fight against her in just brutal strength. Because she knows that mostly Koneko has more. And the fact that mostly Issei is quite in depth in with nature energy, basically, yeah, not nature energy, but nature magic somewhat. She can somewhat sense about a little bit of what's it called, senju, but it's not much. She's not a yokai, she's an elf, so of course, elf nature energy is different from mostly what's it called, senju for what's it called, yokais. But yeah, but of course she's annoyed that mostly Koneko keeps holding back. And she knows that mostly Koneko is a half Nekomaru. She's not gonna say anything. She would say something, but no, she won't, because she's going to make Koneko learn by herself. Now, of course, she knows about Kiba also kind of holding back against, well, how should I say? But of course, well, mostly Issei kind of just says, well, not Issei, mostly she kind of mostly Kiba has also been kind of holding back. And so, of course, Kiba does kind of hold back and doesn't actually go use full power. And of course, this is where Issei has suggested that Kiba should use holy weapons, like holy swords, as well, mostly she asks if he can create kind of holy weapons. And mostly Kiba looks angry and furious and annoyed with mostly Asu's claim. Of course, he has tried very hard to kind of make Asu shut up with that. But of course, Asu has defeated him multiple times because she has actually become quite skilled in swords. That's why, well, she's annoyed that mostly her friends keep holding back. She is actually wondering how Issei's doing because, well, she's hoping that Issei isn't weak, which, if he is weak, she will protect him no matter what, because clearly they're friends, and she wants to be more than just friends with mostly Issei, but not the point. But we go into mostly, well, back towards mostly Asia. Mostly all of them kind of hold back. I know Rias doesn't really train, Aqua doesn't either, and I know Akhena's a fallen angel, half devil, but yeah. Of course, since Rias is, I don't know, a, how should I say, a Grimoire, but also a descendant for the Bell family, she should have the destruction magic, and she kind of sucks at destruction magic, because, well, that's how we lost against Riser, because, well, she thought it would be arrogant enough to fight against an immortal bird, who clearly is immortal. No shit. The only way to defeat an immortal bird was holy weapon, holy items. But no one wanted to use it. And besides, I was still so weak and naive back then. And Issei was the only one who was actually smart enough to actually do something crazy. I hate all my Peerage members. This is where, well, mostly, Sona can see how mostly Ozzy is so stressed with mostly Rias and her Peerage. And also stressed with mostly her friends. This is where, well, Ozzy says, other than that, the only thing I can actually talk to someone in school will be Aika. Not Aika, no. Aika. She's the only other person I can talk to and relate my problems. She knows about the supernatural. She's not going to join any Peerage because she doesn't want to. She is a yokai. She hates joining Peerage. She's not going to join any of them because, well, it's stupid in her opinion. But of course, mostly I can be the only one talking to her because she actually also can help me in controlling my nature energy of my elf race side. But yeah, it's quite literally annoying because she's the only one that's actually willing to help me. She actually trains in her own kind of style, and she just has the same opinion with Rias and the others. They kind of hold back way too much. She actually used a clone of herself to right now kind of look like me in a battle with mostly Kiba and Konako. She did not hold back in that clone. That clone literally did not hold back, but both of them got whooped instantly. It was funny, but at the same time kind of sad. This is where, well, right now Sona can see that basically Asuka is kind of spitting facts about how mostly her childhood friend is, yeah, not the greatest, and of course she doesn't train at all. And there goes Akano also being the exact same because she rejects her kind of mostly heritage. Kiba, well, she doesn't know much about Kiba, but if he doesn't like holy weapons, he must have been from the church somewhat. And then there's Konako. She knows a bit about Konako, and she knows that she also rejects her heritage. This is where, well, Ozzy on the other hand, she is now considered to be a human, well, kind of like, she's actually was considered to be a 50% human, but she's actually 25% human and 25% elf, at the same time 50% devil, since, yeah. But of course, where, well, she sighs, because, yeah, it's annoying to be a devil. I mean, she actually also was able to learn something similar to destruction magic. She actually summons it out, and her destruction magic, instead of being red like, well, mostly Rias, is actually a greenish color. This is where, well, Sona turned her eyes and right now widen. Everyone in the barrage with Sona's widen eyes. Right now, making, well, mostly not Konako, Ozzy explains and how she actually learned about this. Since mostly a piece of a magical power is usually in all the kind of like palm pieces of the user, the host, who actually kind of transfer their magic into mostly the palm pieces or just entirely any piece, they were actually able to kind of be able to one day gain the power if they manage to absorb fully the pieces. Mostly the piece of whatever. Actually, entirely, I already absorbed the piece of what's it called, the bishop, mostly the energy, the magic, the mostly devil energy. Of course, I'm still able to try to control fully the demonic energy. I right now have it stored in my body as a seal. So yeah, I don't really need the kind of bishop piece anymore. So pretty much, this is where she kind of like summons it out, and it's just a white piece. This is where, well, everyone just looks at her with widened eyes. This is where, well, right now giving towards mostly Sona, and Sona just widened her eyes. This white piece is similar, the same as the dolish kind of mostly melted cracked piece as mostly the one that she found out in the kind of park. This is where, well, she looks at the bishop piece and then tries to remember the pawn piece that mostly should have been probably Issei's. This is where, well, she's actually winding her eyes. Ozia has actually figured out a way to actually get rid of the bishop piece and actually be free from mostly Rias without having that whole system of like becoming a high ranking devil. She literally just got rid of it. This is where Ozia also got rid of the kind of like magic signature for mostly the Grimoire. She just got rid of it and says, see, easy. I just figured out something like that, and yeah, pretty much you can count me as a stray, but I'm not really into a corrupt kind of state. I am kind of 50% devil, and of course I have 4 wings, but other than that I'm not really going to go attack humans or devils or anyone. I just wanted to be free, away from mostly Rias and the others. I would have talked to mostly Kiba and Koneko, but they're too loyal and they would have said something to that of Rias. I'm telling you this now, I should say Sona, because if you tell them, I don't really care because I'm already gonna be gone. So you can tell Rias about this. I really don't care. I'll be gone in like a couple of like hours or seconds. This is where, well, Sona right now kind of holds on to the piece and then looks at mostly Ozia, smiles and says, why would I ever tell her anything? I know how much pain you're in with the fact that Issei is gone. I'm not gonna tell Rias anything. If something does happen, then I will just say that you died. And when you died, I will send a magic signature towards you that you need to leave. This is where, well, we'll see. Ozia smiles and hugs Sona and says, thank you. I think Issei would be quite appreciate the fact that another girl kind of likes him. Don't you think, Sona-chan? This is where, well, Sona kind of mostly not Sona. Ozia kind of whispered down to Sona's ear. Sona kind of face becomes red and says, shut up, don't tell them anything. This is where, well, Ozia smiles and says, thank you, Dad. This is where, well, mostly the other Peerage members just sees how Sona is kind of gentle with Ozia, even though Ozia is quite ruthless, but at the same time, they seem to be gentle to each other. And quite happy. But yeah, this is where, well, mostly they were still surprised and a little confused in where Issei went. Now, of course, where, well, one of the kind of members of the Peerage of Sona, kind of being Momo, raised up her hand saying, so if I get my control of magic to be quite as good as yours, Ozia-chan, would I be able to kind of have enough resistance, a high infinity towards mostly Sona's magic? Yes, you will. Because anyone that's in a different kind of like Peerage, like say the Phoenixes, one of the Phoenix members managed to be able to drain the pawn or whatever piece they have inside their body, they can actually have their magic amplified to whatever that is, have their strength or whatever. Like say it's a knight, and if they drain it fully, they will become fast, very fast. If they train their body enough, they can actually have the same speed as, I don't know, the fastest running thing you can think of. But they can be quite faster than that as their previous power, but they need to train their body so they can handle all the demonic energy from that piece. After that, they'll be fully considered a 50% devil, but at the same time, they will also have the power of the Phoenix. So yeah, like I'm just saying, I kind of figured that out after a while. I don't know if Issei could actually also figure that out. If Issei is still alive, then he probably had also probably the same destruction magic. If that's the case, then he will have a quite strong infinity to it. This is where, well, obviously, but still, I don't really know how to control my destruction magic too much. Right now, I'm trying to train in it, but since it's a counter effect to my elf race kind of heritage, it's literally kind of hard for me to control it. This is where, well, mostly all of them nodded. They all smile, seeing that mostly Ozia has actually been talking to them for quite a while, and instead of keeping secrets, she's actually telling them a lot. But yeah, this is where, well, Sona nodded. This is where, well, she then says, okay, now I actually want my whole family to, mostly my whole Peerage family member, to actually train hard enough and actually become like Ozia. She's an example to actually become strong. Because if you become stronger, you'll be having a high infinity like mine. And that means I also gotta train, because I also want to become stronger. This is where, well, she smiles at everyone, and this is where everyone smiles at her. This is where, well, Sabaki nodded. That's where Azia smiles at mostly Sona and says, well, I should probably be going back to my house. I gotta go check on the Hyodos to make sure they're okay. This is where, well, Sona nodded and saying, if you get in any more fights, Azia, just make sure that, well, I won't really suspend you or any of that. I know that some of the guys in the school are quite creepy and annoying. They're not like Issei, which Issei had actually a resistance to actually do anything to you. But yeah, and he was quite nice to you. This is where, well, Azia nodded and says, yeah, I know not every pervert could be as nice as like Issei. I already know that. Thank you for the warning anyway. What's it called? Azia? Not Azia. Mostly Sona-chan. I'll be keeping that in mind. Other than that, I should be going then. This is where, well, Azia right now makes a magic circle. Her magic circle is not the Grammarly magic circle, and she just teleports back home. She actually appears towards the house of the, what's it called, Hyodo. And this is where, well, she walks downstairs because she was someone sleeping in. That's what the Hyodos thought, but yeah. This is where, well, she dispels her clone and decides to kind of change her outfit from her kind of, mostly outfit to be fighting is not the school uniform. She actually uses mostly a different clothing, mostly kind of looks like this. She does kind of wear like this blackish kind of like leathery outfit, but it's mostly green in her opinion and kind of gold, but yeah. But of course, this is where, well, she is kind of back at her house. She's wearing now her kind of normal kind of casual outfit, and this is where she goes downstairs to see the two Hyodos, and this is where, well, the two Hyodos are actually talking and breaking the news towards not Azia, mostly breaking the news towards Irina and Zenobia. Well, mostly Irina. Irina was sad and crying, and this was being held by Zenobia. This is where, well, they both look up because they felt Devil's signature, and they see Azia. And this is where, well, both of them were about to pull out their swords until this is where, well, Mika kind of noticed, well, mostly Azia says, Mika, this is where, well, she says, this is Azia here. She's actually a friend that mostly Issei brought over and became our daughter. But of course, this is the only child that we have left, and we'd be really sad if she disappears. This is where, well, Azia hugs both of them and says, I will never be going anywhere. I'm actually just hoping for Issei to come back. Don't worry. In the name of God, he will definitely come back. She did get a headache from it, but this is where, well, she doesn't care. This is where, well, she actually managed to nullify it by just using a bit of her nature magic. So this is where, well, she then bows down in front of mostly Azia and mostly Irina and even Zenobia and says, hello there. You must be Irina's kind of childhood friend for Issei. I do not know much about your friendship, but can we talk outside? This is where, well, mostly Irina nodded. Zenobia decided to narrow her eyes because she looks like the maiden of the kind of somewhat maiden of the church or whatever, the one that she got kicked out, but yeah. This is where, well, mostly they go outside, and this is where, well, Irina says, so why is the devil here? This is where, well, mostly Azia kind of smiles, and this is where she says, easy. Well, Issei was considered to be a devil incarnated when I kind of joined this peerage. Well, mostly got revived because I got killed, but not the point. Thanks to a red-haired bitch, but not the point. This is where Irina kind of narrows her eyes and says, red-haired bitch? Oh, you're talking about the Grammarly. What the hell does she do? This is where right now Irina gets angry. That's where Azia kind of tells mostly both Irina and Zenobia what might have happened and why Issei is missing. This is where Irina is right now fierce and angry, and she wants to just cut down that red-haired bitch for what maybe she done. This is where Zenobia right now holds onto Irina's collar and says, are you sure about the information? Entirely not sure. Mostly Issei has been gone for a couple of months, 3 months to be sure. In those 3 months, I've been training to make sure to be high enough and powerful enough to just leave the red-haired bitch's kind of barrage. After that, I'm gonna go look for Issei. I don't know where he's at, but I'll try to make sure that I can find him. I want him to be back in my life. I do not want him to just be alone. Alone like when I died. That's the way, well, mostly Irina hugs mostly Azia. Even though Azia is considered to be a devil, she seems to be quite kind-hearted. And she was supposed to be a maiden of, well, mostly that whole maiden that got the spell, but she seemed to be quite kind-hearted. This where, well, Zenobia kind of points her sword at mostly Azia and says, how can I be so sure to be trusting you? Azia says, you don't need to trust me. I mean, we can always fight if that's what you want. This where, well, Irina says, wait, we don't really need to fight. In the name of this where, well, Zenobia says, how about this? Let's fight then. This is where they go to kind of, well, before going to anywhere, Azia snaps her fingers, and this is where they go teleport into a dimension. This is where, well, it looks like a tree forest and it just looks all kind of like beautiful and other things. And Zenobia says, what is this? This is my own dimension. My dimension of peace. Usually I use this dimension to just get away from the red-haired bitch and her annoying antics and other things, but yeah. Besides, I should mention what I am. I am Ozzy Argento. I used to be a considered human, but after now, I am actually 50% devil, 25% humanity. Well, yeah, human, and 25% elf. I was supposed to be a 50% elf and a 50% human, but now I kind of don't have the choice because I'm now devil. But that is not the point. I do not belong to the Gremory family no more because, well, I managed to dispel the magic and signature and random bullcrap. I also managed to absorb the full pawn piece, or mostly bishop piece, that I had in my body, but I gave to Sona to right now be able to take care of me. Entirely, I am no longer a part of Rias' peerage. I don't need to go through that whole system. I might be considered a stray in the near future if I actually go away and go look for Issei. But other than that, nice to meet you then. Zenobia Quarter and Irina Shibuya, isn't that your name? This is where both of them nodded. Well, then let's fight Zenobia Quarter. Let's see who's the strongest here is. This is where Zenobia kind of grins and says, bring it then. This is where she pulls out her sword, the Excalibur Destruction, while Ozzy pulls out two swords. Two greenish swords that right now one is made with emerald and the other one is jade. This is where, well, both of them gets on guard. This is where Irina swears up and says, I guess I'll be watching it. This is where she sits down on a stone, which she tries to get comfort, and right now just looks at this battle. 20 minutes later, because mostly Zenobia was like good swordsmanship, she was much more better than mostly Kiba. Because mostly Kiba doesn't hold back, or mostly not Kiba. Zenobia doesn't actually hold back, unlike Kiba. So of course it took a while, but mostly what's it called? Ozzy managed to actually defeat Zenobia after a while. But yeah, this is where, well, Zenobia was shocked with the whole weaponry of, well, mostly just armory that mostly Ozzy is doing. She's using magic. She's also using like hand-to-hand combat. She's also using different weapons. Instead of using two daggers, that was one made with emerald and the other made with jade, she was using a spear, a sword, an axe, and even a scythe, and even arrows to try to attack mostly Zenobia. And Zenobia had a very tough time with mostly Ozzy. Ozzy is much more skilled than she looks to be. She might look like a damsel in distress, but she's not. Don't try to be fooled by her kind of damsel in distress kind of like act. But yeah, or mostly her kind of just look alike. But yeah. But of course, mostly that was the thing, and mostly she almost got one-shotted by mostly Ozzy, which is crazy. But other than that, she got defeated, and of course, where Ozzy says, so do you give up? Zenobia scoffs and just says, fine, I give up. I admit defeat. Okay, good job there. This is where, well, mostly Ozzy gives back the Excalibur torch. Mostly, well, Zenobia says, why isn't it affecting you? Huh? Oh, I'm using the kind of nature energy. Since I am an elf, I can actually somewhat hold Excalibur. A little bit. It does hurt me a bit, but not much. I'm trying to get rid of 25% of the demonic energy away from my body, so I can actually kind of flood it in with the elf energy or genes to become actually like 50% elf instead of 50% devil. I want mostly the elf magic or genes to be more dominant than the actual, well, I should say demonic genes. But yeah, this is where, well, right now Zenobia nodding and says, I see. Well, that's good to know. Whatever. This is where, well, mostly Irina kind of smiles and says, this was an interesting battle and an interesting information gathering that we kind of found out. So, I guess we won't call you the kind of evil maiden. What do you want to be called? Oh, that's quite easy. The elf, or, I really don't know. You can call me just Ozzy for right now. I don't really have a title. Maybe in the near future, if you find out what I'll be being called, then you can call me that. I don't know, maybe I'll think of something. This is where, well, both of them nodded, but this is where they get back to the human world, and this is where Ozzy says, well, you girls can just stay here in the Hyoto residence since Issei's not here. But other than that, I'm going inside. But yeah. But other than that, I'm going to end it off here for mostly part 2 of this What If. Other than that, bye. So, and yeah, I didn't really explain where Issei's at. I will explain later where he will be at. But other than that, bye. So, and yeah, bye.